I accelerated my success as a realtor by tuning into podcasts, and now it's time for me to give back. Join me while I chat with some of the top agents in the industry, gaining insight into how they became experts at selling real estate so you can too. Who am I? Well, I'm Mark Rawmaker. I went from selling $5 million in real estate my first year as a part-time agent to running a mega icon team who has sold over $260 million in real estate in just 5 years. I'll be your host while we talk to yet another amazing realtor crushing the game. Welcome to the Real Estate Ninja Podcast. Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Ninja Podcast. Or if this is your first time, welcome. In this episode, we're actually going to sit down with Justin Smith, a realtor out of St. Pete, Florida. He's a former actor turned realtor, which so am I. So this is going to be really fun. We're going to discuss his journey from transitioning from one industry to another and find out how the skills he gained as an actor have contributed to his success as a realtor. Plus, this is super cool. We're going to learn about Justin's innovative listing videos, get exclusive access to his creative process, and see what goes into making each video come alive. How he figures out his ideas is going to surprise you. From the strategies behind each production to insight into becoming a successful agent in the digital age, there's so much to explore and plenty of wisdom that he will be sharing. But before we get started, make sure you go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode every time we drop one. And it would be super cool if you gave us a 5-star review so that more people like you can join in on this incredible podcast. Now, get a pen ready because we're about to talk to Mr. Justin Smith. Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Ninja Podcast. On today's episode, we are honored to have a very special guest with us, Mr. Justin Smith, one of the best and brightest real estate professionals in the state of Florida. With close to 20 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, Justin knows this market like the back of his hand. And what's cool about Justin is that he's not your typical realtor. He's a creative marketer and always thinking outside the box to get his clients the best deals possible. He's also incredibly down to earth and always puts people first. That's why I'm delighted to chat with him today and uncover some exceptional real estate insights. Welcome, Justin. How are you, man?
Good, Mark. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be on here.
Heck yeah, man. This is going to be fun. The story about Justin and I, we're both former actors, right?
That's right.
And we've been following each other's careers and but this is the first time we've actually talked face to face. So I'm super excited because I'm a huge fan, dude. I'm a huge fan of what you're doing over there.
And likewise, I was working on a movie a few years ago or a TV show or something in Orlando when I was, still doing real estate over here. And I happened to book this TV show, and a mutual friend of ours said, "Oh, do you know Mark?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I've heard of him in the business. Oh, he's a realtor now." I'm like, "Really?" So I think that's when we got formally introduced on Instagram. So since then, we've just been kind of commenting and DMing on Instagram is how we've develop this brotherhood.
Yeah, I love it, man. This is going to be great. So we just speak the same language, which is awesome. So let's start for those who don't know you and the listeners, talk to you about like what you did. Obviously you're an actor, but what you did before real estate and then what brought you into real estate.
Sure. So before real estate, I was obviously been acting since like the late 90s and did the theme park stuff, working with the heads on at the theme parks. And if you don't know what heads on mean, with like the animated characters in the streets in 120-degree weather in the middle of Orlando summer. So, I paid my sweat equity there and started booking some commercials and TV shows and movies and things like that. And then I had a chance to, for those of you who might think like, let's say for those like older millennials, Gen X crowds, if you remember in Orlando in Central Florida, way back in the day, there was this TV character, me, called the WB guy. I did like interstitials on, it was before it was a CW, it was WB. And so that was for about 3 or 4 years in the early to mid 2000s. So I left that in 2005 and had an opportunity to go to South Africa and shoot a movie. So I went to South Africa. When I came back from South Africa, my job as an on-air spokesperson, it was kind of like, think of it, that job on TV was like a sort of like a radio DJ, although a radio DJ on TV. But when I came back from South Africa, after 3 months of shooting this film, I had no job. So a lot of my friends were in timeshare. They were, making a killing in real estate. This was right before the market downturn in, 07, 08. And I said, that looks pretty cool. Let me go get my license and see if I can do that. So got my license, hung my real estate license with Exit Realty in Orlando back in 2005, 2006. And
before the crash, right?
Right before the crash, right? And then when the crash happened, shortly thereafter, I went to LA, did acting out there, still kept my real estate license and dabbled in it here and there over the years, and then went full speed once I moved back to Florida, to the west side of Florida, in St. Pete, Tampa back in 2015. So real estate has been the primary goal since then. We're still dabbling in acting here and there. since I've been back in Tampa, St. Pete. But that's kind of like Justin's past 20 years in a nutshell.
Right. So what are the similarities? So coming from an acting background, what are the similarities? What helped you succeed in real estate from being a professional actor?
So I think, there's a big part of rejection that you hear about a lot in the acting business, cutthroat, dog eat dog. And I think that just helped develop a very thick skin. And, with acting, it was so self-fulfilling. And I would give to church and give to my charity, meet my local charities and things like that. But I love acting, right? But I never really felt like I was doing something to help other people with acting. You book a job and, you tell your friends and family, everybody's excited for you, but like, what's it really doing to help other people? And I know there's arguments on both sides of the aisle about that, like, oh, you're helping people like escape their reality. Okay. But
Sure.
What am I really doing in the real world to help other people? And with that, with developing that people skill, that self-promotion, self-marketing skill and thick skin through the rejection and acting, I was able to really kind of cross-pollinate and hybrid that into real estate, and to be able to have that creative mindset and then take that real estate career. And when I would, help somebody buy a house or help somebody sell a house or just help somebody on their wealth journey through real estate, I'm actually not only cool doing something for myself, but I'm able to help other people with that. So that kind of transformation and revelation really for that has just been such a huge game changer in my career in the past decade with transitioning from acting to real estate. And that's awesome. My dog, and she agrees.
Yeah, she's a huge fan of yours as an actor and a real estate agent. So that genuine, like, I love that, because again, we've never had this conversation. So you coming from a place of true, like, I want to help people, has led you, I truly believe, to your success. It's not about, we're going to talk about your videos and your marketing and all that stuff, but if you keep that at your core, every agent that has that at their core, it has a lot of success, I truly believe. And that's pretty cool that you have that down, like, no matter what happens, right? Bad appraisal, bad inspection, client using you're a different agent, even though you're a friend, you still have that deep down. And he still agrees with me. Are you a single agent or are you on a team?
I'm a single agent. My team is the people that I have rallied around me to help me get my buyers and sellers to the closing table.
But you're not a team member or run a team. And we're in the time right now where a snapshot of life, like, teams are where it's at, right? And you're one of the ones that's like, you know what, I'm going to do it by myself. I know that you have a team. So if people listening to this are single agents, and it is becoming the minority, which is crazy to me, but because, like, you get to run your own business and you keep all your commission.
Right.
Why have you chosen to stay single agent? And then how have you built that out? Because you do have a team, you just don't have the Justin Smith team, right? So, and you don't have agents working with you or for you. So how does that look like, and why?
So I do have a transaction coordinator that kind of helps me out when I get a little overloaded at the firm. However, if I'm going to boil it down, let's unpack this. I am very type A control freak. And I feel like, and this is just, and I listen to all the podcasts and listen to all the Instagram and social media experts that tell me if I want to scale, I need to, source things out and hire things and spend time doing things that enable Justin Smith to be Justin Smith, the great realtor. However, I feel like I would be wasting more of my time teaching somebody else to do what I do. And I know that can just take time. I get it. And in fact, this year, one of my goals when I sat down with my planner at the firm was to bring on a couple of junior agents and create a team and develop a team. So eventually I do want to get there. However, right now, it boils down to just me being a little too controlling, and I'm getting a little verklempt now right now thinking about it, and just not wanting to, spend time teaching other people what I do and my process and my system. And I'm like, you know what, never mind, I'll just do it on my own. If it really comes down to it.
So you have a transaction coordinator, and then we'll again, we're going to get to the videos in a second, because you guys need to look them up. His videos are amazing. Do you have a how many people do you pay to help you with a transaction, if that makes sense? You know
On
what I
a
mean?
normal
Or
basis,
marketing, or like you say you have a TC, right?
right?
Transaction coordinator.
And I
She
don't,
uploads all your
she's
documents.
fantastic, but I don't use her all the time. Sometimes I'm uploading documents at 9 or 10 o'clock at night and she's off and I want to get it done that night and just get it off my
Yeah.
plate. So on average, I would say the only people I'm paying to get a transaction done are probably two. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And
And
you know,
then
the,
how
the
many?
other thing, Mark, right? Just to piggyback on that turned me off to, assistants or, TCs. And there's a lot of great ones out there. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Or teams is on my listings. A lot of times when I push a seller, I will never tell them what to do, but when I push a seller of mine to, hey, this is our best deal. I think this is going to be our one that's going to close. Let's go with this one when they're asking my opinion, right? And a lot of times that has to do with my relationship with the selling agent, with the buyer's agent. And what I hate, I don't want to say hate, but one of my biggest pet peeves is when I have convinced this seller that this is going to be our buyer. And then I've developed that relationship because whether I know them or I've developed the relationship over negotiations with that buyer's agent. And then boom, we're executed. And the next day I start getting all these emails, texts, or phone calls from their assistant or their TC who they didn't inform me that was going to be contacting me. And I have no relationship with, and maybe they're good, but a lot of times they're not as good. And that just kind of gets under my skin sometimes. So I never want to be that agent to somebody else.
You want to be that unattached.
Right,
Yeah, that unattached from it. And what's cool about real estate, obviously, is that there's so many ways to do it. There's no wrong way, no right way.
Right.
But your way is I'm on the same page as you. I don't mind if there's support in a transaction. Like I actually enjoy it because more people involved, you know what I mean? Like balls can drop. But I don't love when I get passed.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't love when I'm like, wait, but you're the agent and we were negotiating and I haven't talked. You're not even going to text me back.
And
like
I've
had multiple times where agents are like, text my TC. And so I'm like, what?
And a lot of times people are hiring me because of me. I get asked when I'm sitting at the kitchen table with Mr. and Mrs. Seller, or Mrs. and Mrs. or Mr. and Mr. whatever the case. And they say, no, you're not, you don't have some big team and, we're going to like sign with you. And then we're never going to hear from you till the closing day. Right. Like, I'm like, no, I'm your guy, A to Z, contract to closing. Like you will never have to deal with anybody else. Right.
Yeah.
That's a big value proposition for me that helps me get a lot more listings or work with a lot more buyers because I'm so involved on their day in and day out constantly, whether I'm texting or calling with updates or emailing at least every other day through the transaction. I know some people, they have like their weekly check-in, right? I'm like, I got it on my calendar. I'm like every other day I'm checking in with them because, I know back in the day when I bought my first house, one of the realtors that I was working with at that time, it was like, cool. They got me, this is before I was a realtor. They got me closed on my first house. And then I heard from them for inspections. And then it was pretty much the lender through the entire time until like the day before closing when we had to do our walkthrough. I'm like, when I got my license, I was like, I never want to do that. I want to, because I know it can be a buy, at least on the buying side and on the selling side. It's the largest asset many people will ever purchase in their life. And it can be a very emotionally charged asset, an emotionally charged transaction. So a lot of that comes with, I don't want to say hand holding, but there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of people who don't really know what they're doing. Right. And they're too afraid to ask the dumb questions. So I'm like, let me be here, ask all the dumb questions you want, and I'll be your information or your resource.
When you're so experienced now too, I'm sure you tell them they don't get to ask the dumb questions because you've already informed them of the answers.
All up front. Right? I give them a next step email as soon as we're under contract, and it's got everything laid out so they can refer to that. But most of the time they're calling me anyways.
Yeah. So frame of reference. So you're a single agent that sometimes uploads your own documents and crushes it. How much did you sell last year? Just for like people listening, you did a lot.
I did over 20 million last year.
By yourself, no team, just like TC if she's awake.
No team, all in. Yeah, exactly. If she's awake. I actually last year she only did one for me. So 20 million last year. Yeah, last year.
That's amazing. That's unbelievable, man.
And I think it was only like 25 or 26 sides. So it wasn't even that many sides. It was more about last year was more about working smarter, not harder.
Right. So let's get into that. So your price point's obviously gone up. You're in a really nice beach area, St. Pete, Clearwater, right in Tampa Bay. How did you get so your video as a former actor, and we have the same kind of mold here, but you've created these videos, super creative, super. Your Top Gun one, like oh, I mean, you have story. You're telling a story, which that's again you're bringing that from your past.
Yeah.
What made you think like? What made you take that leap? To be like, I have to do this, obviously, besides just like, I got to be creative to like fulfill that need. But
Yeah.
what got you there? And then how do you pitch that to sellers? Especially you've sold $1 million homes. Like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? So, and your videos are they're quirky, they're cool, but they're not like the typical, like, look at this granite countertop.
Right. It's not like
super fun.
I'll pull a Glenda Baker and say like, hi, welcome to 123 Banana Street. Not that's what she does, but that's like her fake address she uses. And I love Glenda Baker, but it's like that. You see so many of and you guys are fantastic at what you do. And I kind of, steal and borrow off of you. I get creative off of you. I don't ever steal directly from you, but I get ideas, right?
Right. And it burns in your head. You're like, oh, cool. Like, that's the whole point. That's why I would follow you too, man.
And it's like, what could I do? What can I steal from that? What are they doing that I can implement, right? So, and I think that's what I used to have an old theater coach that says, listen, if you see something another performer is doing, steal it, make it your own. There's no ownership over that. So I'm
nobody's creating anything. We're not inventing anything. We're just making our own.
That's right.
Exactly.
But you see so many realtors out there who do that, and there's nothing wrong. Some of them have fantastic personalities, but you see so many realtors out there copying each other and doing the same thing. It's the typical out in front of the house. Hi, welcome to 123 Banana Street. Let's go inside and take a look. And it's like, here's a kitchen, here's a bath. I'm like, what can okay, cool. We can see that. Give me some added value. And what I've tried to do in my videos, and I can't say with all of them because some of my videos that I do are just a simple tour, right? I think the house, not that it doesn't need anything more, but it's like, let's just get to it, right? People just want to see the tour of the house. But when when I've got the creative juices flowing, which is most of my videos, which is why a lot of sellers have hired me over the past 24 months. And I'll touch on that in a second. I like to have like a little intro or teaser before the tour that is already layering in the criteria, the facts and figures of the house, so that you're watching this little creative video, like with the Top Gun thing, where I'm having a conversation with myself, but it's me as a realtor having a conversation with Maverick, right? Who's out fishing on the boat. And, and in that conversation, I'm layering in the facts of the house. So you already know about the house before we even get to the tour of the video. So I've already kind of wrapped you in. And that's what I try to do with all of my creative videos. And that video, actually, I would say about a third of my business last year, a third of my volume came from other people in the neighborhood and surrounding areas seeing videos that I've done. And they called me in to have a listing appointment, or they called me up to help them search for a home based on, oh, I saw the Top Gun video, or, oh, I saw you jumping in the pool fully clothed. That's so awesome. Which the Top Gun video came from a Facebook lead from my seller then watching. I did a video, like, I think it was last January or maybe February or December of 21. I can't remember exactly the date, but I jumped in a pool fully clothed in the middle of winter. And that Top Gun house came from that video. She contacted me on that. So, I'm starting to get a lot more leads just off of social, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, from people seeing those videos and hiring me directly, either from that, or maybe I don't know they're calling me because of that. And then I'll get into, the living room and we're going through the whole listing spiel. And then they'll, then let the cat out of the bag, like, oh, that's why you're in here, because we saw your videos.
Got it. And I love that you have, all your videos have it's called a hook, right? To like how to to bring them in. And that one where you jumped in the pool was one of my favorite ones, because you literally had you jumping in and you paused it before you landed in the pool.
Right.
And then I was like, well, now I have to watch the whole, I don't care about the house, but I got to watch the whole thing. Cause like, he obviously went in the pool fully clothed, but no way. And then you informed me about this amazing house. It was like a trick. You know what I mean? So, but that's what's so brilliant about what you're doing is that so tell us about that process we obviously know it's brought you success, but when somebody says, I want to list my home, do you say, okay, well, can I have free reign with this creativity, or is there something you want to do? And then from there, what's your writing process like and production process like?
So, it's a great question, because typically I don't ask the permission, and I've never had anybody, once I send them the video after, we've done it and it's already up and listed, I never have anybody say like, oh gosh, can we take that down? That was a little much, right? What's funny is when I go into a listing appointment, I do have people that are, because when I go into a listing appointment or a buyer consultation, I'm very professional and courteous of people and, reading the room. I've had more times than not people like, man, I thought you'd be like this big over the top guy. And I'm like, no, like this is a serious business. And I'm a professional. What I do on camera is to help sell your home.
That's marketing.
But,
it's a different,
that's marketing. So I do have people say that quite often, but to your question, my process, I know this is going to sound silly, but when I get my most creative is when I'm in the shower or when I'm on the toilet, when I have my, like, that's about the time I've got alone. Like, literally it'll be a couple nights before I'm getting ready to do a listing video. And I've just been tossing around a couple different ideas, and I'll be in the shower and just like, that's it. And I'll run out and I'll tell my wife, and we kind of like, cause my wife, she's a performer as well, and she's a TV host. So we'll go back and forth a few times and we'll go with some ideas. But a lot of people ask me, they say, oh, well, cool. You just get to show up and like your camera guy's got everything there for you. And you just like, get to perform. You're an actor. It's easy. And I'm like, actually, no. I write, I produce, I direct, I print out the script and the shot, the shot list. I give it to my camera guy. He's my shooter and my editor, but that's it. So I'm writing, producing, directing the shots. I'll hire the actors if any are needed for the spot. And then I just give my shooter, my camera guy, basically a template to go and input everything. So that's, I don't want to say I've got some big grand writing, session. It's like typically on the toilet when I've got my alone time or, right. in the shower. And
so when you go into do you do that even though you might have maybe just a few listings coming up or zero, or if you're like, okay, do you constantly do that to think of like, or do you wait to see the house and you're like, okay, now I need to put into play, and your mind starts rolling that way?
So I have a few ideas that I'll write down. Something will just come to me, and I have a few ideas that I write down, but they're for very specific types of listings if I were to ever get them. Right. So most of the time it's after I've been in the house and I've had an experience to feel and see the house and also the sellers. That's when I go back and get creative, because there's a lot of ideas I have that may not work for a typical, 1970s ranch style 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, or the idea that works for that may not work for, a Victorian in Old Northeast here in St. Peter, something like that. So it's usually very specific to the house and to the customer.
Got it. That's so with your videographer, you pay him per listing, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And is he the same? Is it the same person? Is it a company? Is it somebody? Yeah.
Yeah. Same person every time. And so, I've recently started to, some people have, some other companies obviously have started to hit me up and, hey, we'd love to work with you and, shoot some of your stuff as well. Which I'm open to, I'm listening if they do better work or, they're able to offer me something great, I'm totally open to that. However, the same guy I've used, I've been very loyal to, and I'm very loyal to all of my team, if you will, even though I'm a solo agent, but my team of people.
No, that's part of your team.
Help me bring it. And I will be loyal to him because he's been loyal to me through this whole thing. And he knows my style now. So when I give him something, he knows exactly what needs to be done. And for the most part, we only go back and forth once or twice with edits before he nails it. But yeah, he's the same guy, the same company that I've been working with for about 3 to 4 years now.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's switch subjects real quick. Cause
sure.
You said that you're, and I know you're really good at building these relationships, especially if you're like, I go from the beginning to the end, they get me. How do you do that? I mean, in most agents, we say that we know how to do it, but yours is different. You are on a different level. How do you feel you can connect with somebody, especially a seller says, come over, I want you to list my property. I saw you on video. How in an hour and a half, how do you create such a strong relationship where they just trust you?
It's a good question. And you can go to my Instagram page and I think my first thing on my bio is relationships before real estate, or people first, real estate second. And that's the narrative I lead with in every conversation. Everything I do is, at the end of the day, it's like acting. And sorry, I'm comparing it to this, but let me weave this together. With acting, anytime you walk into an audition, I think so many actors can be very desperate for the job. Give me the job. Oh my gosh, look at what I can do. Let me dance for you, right? And with real estate, I don't have that pressure. With real estate, it's like, you're going to want me to sell your house or you're not. You know, there's kind of a butt for every seat. You're going to want the product I'm selling or you're not. If not, then there's going to be somebody else. And so I don't have that same pressure. And it really allows me to walk into a listing appointment in that, hour to maybe hour and a half. And I know there's many people out there who will say, you need to get that listing agreement signed before you walk out the door.
Right.
I've never had a listing agreement signed before I walk out a door. I am a very no pressure. I am here to gain your trust, build that relationship. And I'm not a used car salesman. That's my process. I had to find what works for me. Just like, not to get off topic here, but just like some people will preach about pounding, knocking doors, making cold calls. I make very few cold calls and I pound very few doors. The doors I do pound are the doors in my own neighborhood where I live, where I kind of know the neighbors. The cold calls I do make are usually from maybe, and they're not even cold, they're probably warm because they're coming from somebody else who gave me a tip on somebody that I'll cold call. But
Right.
what works for me is social media. So that's where I put all of my effort, is videos and social media. That's where my business is coming from. And then secondarily, bringing it full circle, what works for me is not being a used car salesman, gaining people's trust, learning how to read a room. And I think a lot of that does go back to, my days in acting. Am I acting when I walk into a room? Absolutely not. I'm 100% genuine. That's why I made that comment where people were like, man, I expected you to be this kind of 100% over the top character, but you're just so almost aloof. You're kind of professional and just spitting out data and facts and trying to make a connection with
Normal. You're not a character. You're a normal person and relatable, right?
And being able to talk to somebody like you right now and just have a listening and reacting and having a conversation and not being a robot doing what you think the listing appointment requires. Because sometimes I think for agents, if you just open up your ears and have a conversation with people, they're going to give you the answers that you want to get from them going in the door. They're going to give them to you without you even asking. Just let them talk. And that's typically what I do, is not trying to hear myself talk, but ask questions and just let the silence linger and let the seller or the buyer just talk. They'll reveal themselves. They'll reveal the answers you want. And so I don't know if that really firmly answered your question about how I do it, but I guess the biggest thing is not having any pressure when I walk into that listing appointment with telling somebody they need to sign this listing agreement now. It's, let me answer your questions. We'll have a follow-up tomorrow and we'll go from there. Right. And I think that lets people know that, hey, I'm not just trying to, get commissions here. I'm here to help you, not just, work for
I use
money.
this. I mean, it could be our backgrounds. I use the same strategy because in my head, I'm like, you're either going to pick me or not, whatever I say. Right. Whatever I show you, I'm not going to change what I do. So let me just try to see if I can help you in a genuine way. And I want to help you and you want me to help you. And then what all the other stuff is just noise. And that's all just like signing stuff and execution of what we're doing.
And
but
I
it's the same way.
I would say like 90% of the time, most people already know that they're going to hire you before you even walk in the door, because as you know, so many people start their search online. This isn't a decade ago where like people weren't really researching Zillow as much, realtor.com or your websites or Google very much, right? They would get a referral from a neighbor or a friend of a friend's baby mama's cousin, and they'd call you, right? People are already starting their search before they even come to you. So people probably most of the time already know that they're going to hire you. So it's kind of the realtor's job to lose at that point after you walk in the door.
Right. Yeah. I always say it's so funny. The last few years, I've just put in if I'm meeting with a buyer or seller, I'm like, you can Google me. That's probably better. Like before we meet, I'm like, just look me up. You'll learn more about me in like an hour of the internet than our hour meeting probably, you know?
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So you also now so your price point's pretty high. I mean, you're in a good area, but how did you jump into, like, I'm sure when you started, you weren't getting $1 million listings and $2 million buyers. So how did you make that leap in it? I mean, obviously your content did it, but what was that like for you? And how did your conversations change? Obviously, I don't think they did, but I want to hear that journey with how you leveled up because everybody wants a bigger price point. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's just what we want, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it has to do with, obviously, since 2020, right? The market increase so that's been giving me the more consistent $1 million to $4.5 million listings and on the buyer side as well. However, I was helping $1 million buyers and $1 million listings pre-pandemic, and how I got there, and that wasn't on a consistent level, but how I got there originally was just calling agents who had these $1 million listings. Maybe I saw their listing sitting on market for 3 or 4 weeks, and I'd call them and be like, hey, I'd love to host an open house for you. So it was really just getting back to those grassroots and hosting an agent that I looked up to in the marketplace, or their listing that I looked up to and wanted to be in that price point, would go host an open house. Sometimes I remember pre-pandemic, this would have been probably 17, 18. I would sit on these listings kind of like we had over winter of last year, where nobody would come through the door. Right. So I wouldn't get any leads. And then, but more times than not, it was just simply going and hosting open houses on the price point where I wanted to be, and then meeting people, talking to people, and eventually then, helping a buyer that I met at this, XYZ open house that was $1.5 million. I helped them buy a house. Maybe if it wasn't that listing, I helped them buy their $1 million house. And then a couple years later, they wanted to sell it. And then through that open house of that listing of mine, I met more buyers, and just, that is kind of snowballed to where it is today.
I love that strategy. That's so simple. I'm going to host an open house where the buyers are going to come, and that's going to be their budget. Like, how simple is that?
You're just kind of sitting there. You've got a product in front of you. They're coming to you, right? I'm not like cold calling.
And then you can do social. If nobody comes, you do a story and you do some social of like, look at me in this $2 million house. Like, that's
absolutely amazing. And I see agents do it today too. On most of my listings, there's a couple agents here in the Tampa St. Pete market where, they're newer agents and I'm familiar with them, and they'll come in and they'll ask me on a weekend when I'm hosting an open house, when I put up a new listing, and they'll come through with their phones and they're like, hey, I'm going to walk through and just do a video tour. I'll tag you in it, but I'm just doing a video tour of, $1 million homes in the neighborhood. Do you mind if I come in? Yeah, absolutely. Come on and knock yourself out. And it's, more exposure for me, but for them, it makes them, even though it's not their listing and maybe they don't have any buyers, to their social media sphere, it makes them look like they're out there working and, doing things. And maybe,
but also what if somebody is a buyer, and then that's the whole point is listing the house, is finding a buyer, right? So
exactly.
I'm always for that too. I always let people do, and when people are like, can I market your home? I'm like, do it. Yeah, do it. I need to sell it. That's the whole point. That's the whole point.
And to that point, like, first and foremost, when I do my videos, of course it's for that house, but it's also for the next house. I'm doing these videos not only to market this house to a pool of buyers, because I'll promote it. We'll do the whole AdWorks campaign and throw it out internationally, globally on, Leading RE and all these other, companies out there. However, I'm doing the video as well to market to whoever my next client might be, or whoever's watching me and seeing what I'm doing. And that's a big pressure too, because when I walk into these listing appointments and I know that I'm there because of my video, it puts pressure on me, because there was a listing I got here in my neighborhood off the Top Gun video, and I knew I was there because of the video. And she says, when I'm walking out the door, she already told me I had the listing, send me the paperwork. Okay, great. And she says, well, I can't wait to see what you do for our house. And I'm like, oh,
I've gotten the same thing.
So it's like the pressure, right? I'm like, so now I have to do something, right? And I'm like, I better figure something out, So it's kind of it's almost a nice pressure relief, even though I want to do the creative videos. It's almost a nice, pressure release when nobody knows that I do the videos, the rare times that they don't know I do the videos or they don't ask for it, that I can, kind of not have that pressure. That's when I can be free and be more creative.
That's awesome. All right, we're going to wrap it up. So I have 2 more questions, because I wish we could talk for a lot longer, to be honest, because this is amazing. Let's do this one. So people don't learn from the successes, they learn from the failures. What's a big failure you've had in your career that has launched you into like, okay, now I'm going to do it this way because of that? I'm sure you have a lot. We all do. But what's a big one that you can be like, oh man, I sucked at that? Or
yeah. I think early on in my career, just learning the power of not speaking on something you don't know and trying to kind of BS your way out of it, was a big learning tool for me. And it didn't happen often, but I remember one time it happened where, I don't even remember the question, but I was showing a buyer a house and they asked me, I don't know, it was probably like on taxes or something, I'm not even sure. And I misspoke just on a generalization of the area, and it happened to be way off. And they called me out on it, and I'm like, better look that up next time. Right. So I think it's things like, and that was 17 years ago, but it's things like that like, I think a lot of agents, and maybe not, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but I think a lot of agents try, especially when you're new to the business, they try to pretend like they're the authority and they know everything, when, let's be honest, when you get out of real estate school, you know zero. You know like
nothing.
Literally nothing. And so I think taking that step and going with your firm, taking their education, their continued education, learning their processes, and just learning how to keep my mouth shut and say, I'll get back to you on that, has been a very valuable tool.
No, that's great advice. That's something that I think, yeah, people forget. And I mean, we all did it. We all faked it till we made it. Right. And then in real time, I had the same moment where I was like, I just totally lied to that person to sound like I knew what I was saying. And I didn't. And I got called out plenty, or I just messed up. And they're like, didn't you say this? I'm like, huh. Now I'm confident. I'm confident enough where I'm like, you know what? Never heard that before. That's a first. Let me figure that out.
And
it's
people
almost
respect that.
Yeah, they do. I've never seen that. I've never heard of that. That's crazy.
And then when you can come back to it, then when you can come back to it with it from like, you know, a screenshot or something, like where you're backing up more than just your words, like a screenshot of a reliable, well-known source or something. It makes you that much more of an authority, whatever that question is that they asked.
Exactly. Awesome. And then last one, what's your favorite app, tool, technology that you have to have on a daily basis that you use daily?
Chat GPT.
Awesome.
That's been my latest little, here's my little dirty little secret. That's been my latest. You know, I used to spend, honestly, painstaking a couple hours writing descriptions for houses. Because again, most of the time I'm doing data input myself, right? Or I have to do it, and then my, you know, compliance department with my TC has to approve it before it goes on the MLS. So now I give Chat GPT, you know, a frame of reference and who and how I would like it to respond, and then put in some data points about the house. And within 30 seconds, it's spitting out a property description for me. And yeah, I'll go back in and I'll change it so I'm not completely plagiarizing it, but I'll change it and zhuzh it a little bit to make it sound more, you know, Justin Smith approved. But honestly, it saves me like 2 hours on every listing.
No, ChatGPT is, and even for content creation, sometimes we do a lot where we have an editor or a videographer twice a week. And I'm like, we're running out of ideas, totally. So then I'll be like, what should we shoot in Orlando? And it's just like, bop, 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 bop. And then you take it from there. It's just, oh man, that's a good tool. More people, it came out of nowhere too, right? I feel like end of the year, people start talking about it. And like 4 weeks ago, that's when I was like, what is this magical situation?
Right? And when I first started using it, I was like, I don't want to tell anybody about it, because whenever I would try to log on during the day, it would be like, system is busy right now. And it was like, because it was overloaded with so many people. And I was like, well, I don't want to tell anybody about it because I don't want anybody to know, because it's going to bog the system down even more. But now I'm telling everybody because it's such an amazing tool. And outside of Chat GPT, a more just kind of common app that I use that on a daily basis for videos or reels and things like that do help is I use InShot. That's how I like edit all my stuff.
What's that? What's it called?
It's called InShot. That's where I edit like all of my reels outside of my long form videos. It's where I, will take my long form videos and edit it down for Instagram, for TikTok, for Facebook. So InShot, and then captions. I think it's like $10 a month, but I pay for captions because captions are so important when you're sitting in bed at night or in the morning scrolling reels, and to have those captions up there. I believe you and I have even DM'd about it on Instagram before.
Yeah, we did.
But I use captions. Captions and InShot are my two big kind of go-to apps. And then Chat GPT has been such a time saver for me over the past, probably just
those are good ones.
These past 3 months this year.
Those are good ones. All right. So where can people find you online? And if they want to reach out, or if they want to just follow all your videos, where can they find you?
So first and foremost, my website. If people are old school and they want to go to my website, it's sellitwithsmith.com. And all of my social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube is all going to be at Hey Justin Smith, HEY Justin Smith. And then my business page on Facebook is going to be Justin Smith Realtor. So, Hey Justin Smith, or Justin Smith Realtor, and then sellitwithsmith.com.
I love it, man. Hey, thanks for coming on. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. Justin's awesome, and he gave so much insight. I appreciate you, dude.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you, man.
Oh man, that was super fun. Thank you so much for listening to my interview with Justin. He is, it's crazy how much success the momentum he's gotten the last few years. I've watched it happen from the sidelines, and it was really fun unpacking that with him. Go watch some of his videos, especially that Top Gun one we were talking about. It is brilliant. And the one he jumps in the pool. So it's so fun, and so it creates such an impact. So if you want to reach out to Justin, like he said, reach out to him, follow him. He's pretty great. And real quick, thank you for listening, and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't yet, so that you don't miss an episode, because we have more guests coming that are just as good as Justin. And if you could too, I would love it if you gave us a 5-star review, and that way our podcast will actually be shown to more people just like yourself, so they can learn too. Thanks for listening, guys, and see you on the next one.